listening to SFP-NOW.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of SFP Now. We've got a great guest lined up who's going to be on in a couple of minutes. We have Karen and Cave, who you'll be seeing really soon in the new series of Van Helsing, which is starting up. I think it's going to be Friday. I think it's October 5th. Yeah, October 5th, so that's actually a Thursday. And I'm not sure if Caroline's going to be in the first episode, but, you know, we spoke to her about Van Helsing and some of her other roles. And here's the interview with Caroline Cave, everybody.
I had a dream once. Our world had ended. Vampires had taken over. And I was the only one that could stop them. It was no dream. I'm nothing special.
Somebody thought you were.
You want me? Here I am.
Van Helsing, a new original series, coming this fall on Syfy.
Hello, and I'd like to welcome to the show the fantastic Caroline Cave, who's an actor based out of Vancouver. And she's done a lot of great, exciting stuff, and she's going to be doing a lot of great, exciting science fiction and fantasy stuff in the future. Hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Ian. Thank you. It's good to be here. We just chatted a little bit before we were sort of on air and recorded about, making art and the notion of, having your feet in a bunch of different pools and being a jack of all trades, master of none. And I shared with you a little story about the writer of District 9 and Neil Blomkamp's wife, who, when she was on set one day, a senior crew member asked her, what her role was or what she was aspiring to. And she just graduated from film school with, huge aspirations. And she was doing everything in film, everything she could get her hands on. She was learning every aspect of production, and she was a writer. And this crew member, very jaded, said, well, aren't you a jack of all trades, master of none? And she went on to be, nominated for an Oscar for the screenplay, I believe, for District 9, or it might have been Chappie. Ooh. But, I was just saying that art begets art, creativity begets creativity. Just make shit. Make stuff.
Make stuff happen.
Make stuff happen.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've learned over the years doing this now, because I've been doing interviews and stuff for my website and podcast since 2001. And I remember initially being absolutely terrified when I spoke to someone new, because it's sort of like that. But one of the things I've learned is it's always generally good to try and say yes.
Yes, yeah.
Because you never know where the various opportunities are going to take you.
It's funny, we used to do, I come from theater like you, and we used to do an exercise in first year theater school where you have your gang of fellow students in your classroom. Usually it's only like 8 to 12 people in an acting class in a conservatory environment. And there's a game just called Yes, Let's. So somebody makes an offer to do something silly or otherwise, or physical or otherwise, and the whole class says, yes, let's, and then they do it with 100% conviction, just getting you over that sense of the auditor who's watching yourself and who's self-conscious, that part of you that says, this isn't reasonable and rational, why would I do this? Anyway, it's kind of a fun exercise to do with kids, young aspiring actors.
Yep. One of the first questions I always like to ask people when I have them on is, how did you actually get into acting? Was it something that you always aspired to do?
apparently I said I was going to be an actor when I was 5 years old, although I don't recall it. My mom and dad tell me that's what I would say. And I did find one funny little journal thing when I was about 8 or 9 where I wrote the same thing. But it's funny, it didn't seem forefront in my mind because I was a dancer and I was just mad for dance. And luckily enough, I also studied piano. And so I aspired to be a professional dancer, and I came quite close, and I was taking I was taking company classes with a professional company here in Vancouver, and I went off to the Banff Center, which is an arts center of some repute, and yet I always wanted ballet, and I wasn't really physically built for ballet. I'm not really long and lean, and I was always sort of forcing this square peg into a round hole. And then I took a gap year after high school. And it was my mom that suggested, because I was going to go to university and study psychology and get an arts degree and have a career in, I don't know, helping people, serving people that way. And my mom said, no, I think you're an artist. You're a creative soul. I think you should study theater. And so I applied to a uni and got in, and I went for 2 years in a general theater program. And then I thought, no, this really is my home. This is what I want to do. So then I went to a conservatory, and I was classically trained. And then I studied briefly at the Royal National Theatre in London under Toby Jones and Selena Cadell, and it was, really transformative. And then I got into a classical theatre company doing, big theatre for 6 months of the year.
Cool. It's really good that you had parents that were supportive.
Oh, so lucky.
Because with me, when I wanted to study theatre, it was kind of like, get real.
Well, I know, but the funny thing about theater is it makes you so highly attuned to others, and I think an empathetic, articulate communicator, and God, that's going to take you many places. And I have a friend who's a BAFTA award-winning locations manager, and he handled locations for Peaky Blinders, and he had us at the general theater degree, which his parents said would amount to nothing, and he's been very successful in his field. So I don't know, it gets you to think laterally, it gets you to collaborate, it gives you a lot. And let's face it, name me an undergraduate degree that really launches you, unless you're doing pre-med or an engineering degree. Name me an undergraduate degree nowadays that doesn't require a master's to get into your field in some kind of higher status position or an income earning position, so I don't know, I'm all for theater degrees just as a start to life. And plus, when if you're doing a general theater degree, you have to take your humanities, you have to take your history or your sociology or these other credits. And I don't know, I'm really for liberal arts education.
Mm-hmm. I think it should be mandatory throughout all schools that theatre and music should be on there. It's it's just because I just think so many kids miss out, and they're kind of like square pegged into thinking that they're going to be working at some supermarket or driving or whatever. And I really think that If a kid wants to have a go at doing something and they show a talent for it and an interest in it, they should be encouraged.
Well, this is huge, and I think it's I know good close people in my life for whom it saved their education because they would have dropped out or they would never have continued with post-secondary until they found their home in the theater or in choir or band, and found that place where they felt safe and authentic. And I'm pretty open about the fact that I have ADD, and I did not know it growing up because I was an excellent student. And this is common for girls. They don't present with the same hyperactivity as boys. So girls can go under the radar. Mm-hmm. And because I achieved academically, it went unnoticed, but I had my own sort of private battles and stress and anxiety resulting from the ADD, particularly high anxiety around exams. And the thing with me is I can hyper-focus, so I can focus like mad on one thing, deeper and longer than most people, which is a gift, but it's also a curse because I'm a mother and I'm a lousy multitasker. And motherhood is all about organization and multitasking. And so, you know, it was really hard when I became a mom because where I think I'm good with the social, emotional aspect of motherhood, the managerial part of motherhood was challenging. But God, if I hadn't been sort of, if I didn't shine in the arts, which I did as a kid, I wouldn't have had the confidence. I just, you know, I would have felt probably pretty lost.
Well, I you know, that this, you're talking about ADHD. It's kind of like, I may as well confess this to you right now because I'm quite open about it. I actually have high functioning autism.
Oh,
so
amazing!
I'm kind of like, it's basically they used to call it Asperger's syndrome.
Yes. Yes, I know it well. Yes.
So it's kind of like that, and I also have the ability to hyperfocus.
Yes.
Which is why every time I put a pizza in the oven and start playing my guitar, about an hour later, it's kind of like a meteorite hit.
Got it. Done it many times. Totally got it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I can relate to you on that. I guess. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and this is the thing. So many creative people are, as they say, neurodiverse. Think differently, learn in a different way. Have, you know, sometimes they're extremely sensitive, and you know, and so it always makes it interesting on set because in my mother life, I'm around civilians, let's call them, people in my day-to-day life that are not particularly expressive, that kind of walk around the world in sort of a flatter space, and then, you know, you get on set again, and cast and crew are all, you know, kind of warm and expressive and a little more animated. And so it's, you know, it becomes its own bubble too. Like if you're on set all the time, it's not reality. That's not the real world. It's not how people interact out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be so much better if it was, though.
Yeah, in some ways, perhaps true.
And kind of funny as well.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the few movies of note that helped launch you was Saw. I don't know which one it was. It was one of the Saw movies.
Saw 6. Saw 6.
Yes. You played Debbie. I'm just wondering what is the experience like of working on that kind of a horror movie, and what expectation did you have when you went into the film?
I didn't know what to expect. I find those films difficult to watch because I am so sensitive. So I have to take them in pretty small doses and you know, remind myself obviously of the mechanics behind the filmmaking when I'm watching it. And they're so well done in terms of the effects, and all the effects, like they're shot in Toronto and all the effects are a Toronto team, all the prosthetics, all the gadgets, the inventions, the traps, all built by a Toronto team. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I was intimidated. I was nervous. Sort of a high stress environment because a lot of money goes into those films and they expect to gross a lot of money. So it was my first experience with a studio film. I think it was Lionsgate Films, which I went on to do some films for after that. And it's grueling. Like you have to really take care of your body because you're putting your body through the ringer. And I was really highly trained physically, as I've said, and vocally. But no matter how well trained you are vocally, it's very hard to scream in sheer terror and not hurt your voice because you're repeating take after take. And when I was doing the steam trap, which was, you know, sharp and dangerous, so they would lay down mats for me when I was on my hands and knees. But if you didn't see the trap floor in the shot, they padded it up for me. But at one point I was sort of so committed and into it, and I kind of closed my eyes during a move and I thrashed the side of my head against the steam trap wall, and I gave myself a concussion, which, you know, nobody wants a concussion. But they were amazing. The thing I never had done before when I had been concussed, which I had been twice before as a kid, was immediately they put ice packs on your sort of in your groin area and under your arms, because your body temperature goes berserk when you have a head injury, which I didn't realize. And they sat me out, but I probably just should have then and there, if it was a sports game, I would have just timed out and not come back and given myself some brain rest for a couple of weeks. But you don't do that in film. You just get back up and you shoot the scene. So it was hard. It was challenging for sure. I think I got a bit of a fan base out of that film, though, as you say. So there you go.
Yeah. So it was stressful, grueling, but maybe worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got to confess, I'm exactly like you. I can't watch that sort of movie.
No, it's too intense, hey?
I draw the movie at Freddy. I draw the line at Freddy Krueger, because those are kind of funny,
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like pantomime is Freddy Krueger, although the first one was actually scary.
Yeah, the first one, the original, it was scary. It was scary. I was quite young when I saw it, I remember, and it was scary.
This year seems to have been a really big one for you in regards to a lot of film and television roles coming your way. Now, aside from the obvious film, which we'll get to a little bit later, I noticed that you had a role in a movie called A Dog's Purpose, which I've very nearly rented a few times on Amazon. What can you tell me about the film?
Well, the one thing I assert, and it's kind of funny, is that no animals, I believe, were harmed in the making of that film. Animals were treated with more care and respect, perhaps, possibly, than humans, although we were treated wonderfully. It was such a good experience. I was on set with my old pal, Luke Kirby, with whom I did a TV series in Toronto called Crash and Burn. And I love Luke, and we have a ton of pals in common, and we shared an agent for many years. And I'm just a fan of Juliet Rylance. I think she's wonderful. I think her father, of course, Mark Rylance, has been an idol of mine for a long time. I was fortunate enough to see him perform live at the Globe in London. And so it was sheer pleasure. And I got to do a bit of a comedic physical turn. Like it's a big sort of scene that turns into chaos, and I get to kind of show my physical skills. So I loved it. And I think it's a lovely film. I'm really proud to be in it.
I'm going to have to rent it then, am I? It's been on Amazon for a few weeks now here in the UK. And I've passed it by a few times, and I've been thinking, is this a good film if I'm in a mood for something that's, going to give me a gentle, feel-good sort of vibe?
It does, but it's also a tearjerker, I'll be honest, because I lost my dog in April, and when I saw the film, my dog was still seemingly totally healthy. So after losing my pup, I think it would be harder for me to watch now because it's a tearjerker. But it's funny and it's well made, and it's Lasse Hallström as the director, so it's worth just seeing what he does as a director and his sense of humanity and humor.
Cool. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your dog. I actually lost my cat in December.
I'm sorry.
He was 21.
So
he was
wow.
old. But in January I adopted a rescue cat because it's kind of important that I have an animal around. To help with anxiety and stuff like that. So
yeah. Oh, they're so good for the soul. They're so good for the soul.
Yeah. Pepper. She's a little devil. She gets up to all sorts.
I bet.
And my cat that died, Sasha. He and I went through so much together. It was absolutely amazing. It was just so nice.
That's a long time. That's a long time to have a little animal pal around. That's a very long relationship.
Yeah. And I was really traumatized as well.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult putting them down, and especially if you're there with them when they pass. It's although I think it's actually kind of helpful in the long run that you're there with them when they pass. It's in the moment way more harder than I imagined or could have foreseen.
Unfortunately, I didn't really have. He didn't really give me that option. He was an outdoor cat, so he was an outdoor cat. So he liked to come in and go in the house, and he just went out one day and didn't come back. So I looked for him for about a week, and it was after Christmas. We found him in a garden about 150 yards away from where I was living. Just moved house, and you know, I got to bring him, took him to the vet, and you know, had him cremated and all that. But you know, it was just see, tomcats have a tendency to wander off when they know it's their time, and he did that sort of thing. Yeah. You know, that's
I think my dog knew she was ill because she ran away very uncharacteristically a couple months before she died. She had cancer. So I think she knew she was unwell and went off to find her place. And she was rescued and returned to me. But I should have known at the time, you know, that's a major sign that there's something really wrong. I just thought that she was out of sorts because my husband was away traveling, and he's sort of the alpha and the one she adored. So yeah. Anyway, not to get too sad for people.
Okay, I know. Sorry. I think it's probably best that I sort of put off watching the film until maybe next week.
Yeah, no, I get it completely. I support that.
Moving on to the obvious film role you've had this year, using the recent Power Rangers movie. What was that like to be involved with? I mean, that's actually a pretty big film.
It was a big film. So it was my first experience with something that huge, with that much on the line for the director, for Dean Israelite and his team. I have to say, when you walk onto a set like that, and especially if you don't have a huge name, you have to be really calm and really grounded and as relaxed as possible, because stuff gets thrown at you at the last minute. And there was just a high level of tension on set, to be honest. I love the cast. I got to get to know a little bit David Denman, who played my husband, and Dacre Montgomery. This kid's going to go far. He's generous. He's funny. And, you know, these kids that played the Power Rangers were really... in North America, unknown, and then they're launched into this huge platform, right? So it was interesting meeting them before all the Comic-Con and the media circus and all that stuff, and to see how they handled it. I think for the most part handled it super well. But I don't know what's happening with the franchise. I don't know. I actually don't even know how well it did at the box office in its theatrical run. But they'll probably make another one.
They probably will. If it's not a sequel to this one, they'll probably reinvent it somehow, because the Power Rangers, it's been around since the 90s. It's been
oh my god,
it's been reinvented so many times.
I know, my son loves it.
Well, I wasn't a fan. I was more a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, it brings me back. Yes.
I noticed you did a few episodes of Dirk Gently last year. Are you likely to return to that in the guest spot, or was it just sort of like a one-off?
I don't think I will, although I loved it. I loved it so much. I would be on that show forever. I just had such a ball. Such a great... I mean, Max Landis is brilliant. I don't think so, because I get killed off in season 1, and they play with time and they play with alternate parallel universes and all of that. But I don't think, based on it's a bit there, you know, it's I don't think I will. I just think it's unlikely. Season 2 was about a whole different take on reality shifts, and I don't think so. I'll come back, which is a shame, because I loved working on that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everyone loves a bit of Douglas Adams as well.
Oh my god, just so wacky and so intelligent.
Mm-hmm. A series you have scored a recurring role in is Syfy's Van Helsing, which centres on a distant relative of the famous vampire hunter Abraham Van Helsing. What can you tell us about your role in the series, and will you be introduced pretty early on in the first episode, maybe?
I think I'm introduced in the second or third episode, so that's pretty early on. First episode, they're establishing, sort of picking up from the whole storyline of season 1 and reminding the audience of what was happening in terms of plot. And I played Jolene, who's a human who tries to, protect and save a bastion of humans in a triage center. I'm sort of, my backstory is that I failed out of medical school. I have some medical training, not huge, but I'm forced into this kind of leadership role as a sort of pseudo doctor caring for these humans that come back from the front lines. And I get to play a lot off of my friend Rakia Bernard, who's wonderful. She plays Doc. Mm-hmm. And so our storyline together develops over season 2. And maybe I'll be back in season 3. It's so funny. People think that actors know like 5 years ahead of time what they're doing, but you don't really. Sometimes you don't know until quite the last minute that you'll be back on something. So we'll see. I have a lot of perspective now that I'm a mom on what's important and what I allow myself to get freaked out about. So if I'm back, that would be amazing, and I just don't know yet.
It looks like, I've never actually seen the series, I'm sorry to say, because there's so much going on all the time.
I know.
Keep up with everything. But it looks like a fun series. Did it take quite a lot out of you in terms of physical demands?
No, it didn't. It didn't really. It's not a hugely physical role. It's more of a psycho-emotional role. And I worked with a director named Michael Nankin, who is a hugely prolific television director. And I just, my role is more about subtlety and interaction and love. And so I wielded a gun, and I felt a little badass with that. But I didn't have a hugely physical role.
Mm-hmm. How did you find working with that cast? Were they quite welcoming for you?
Oh, super duper. Yeah. They were hugely welcoming. And one of the head writers, Jonathan Walker, is, he's an actor who's also a writer and producer, and he knew my work from, for many years. He sort of watched me and known what I've been doing. So it felt really good to get a chance to be on set with him. And it was just a warm, respectful, efficient set.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm probably going to have to check this series out now. It's kind of.
No, it's excellent. Yeah, it's really well done.
I watched the first episode last year, but got a feeling it's one of these shows that, because I didn't quite fancy it after the first episode.
Yes.
But maybe I need to come back to it and try it again.
Well, often you have to give series a chance, because often when they're creating the pilot, they won't have the kind of budget that they need when they sort of launch into, they'll shoot a pilot or the first episode, and then they'll get their funding, or they'll get everything sort of with backing behind it and momentum. So often, visually and in terms of sort of a sense of cohesion in the storyline, you have to give a series a little bit of a chance. And I think Van Helsing's very much an example of that. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I've actually noticed, having read through your credits, because as you can tell, I did quite a lot of research.
Yes, yeah, you did. Thank you. That's always really respectful.
Having read through your list of credits, you've done a fantastic mix of stuff, from family drama to science fiction and horror and beyond. As a creative and an actor, what do you look for in a role? What is it that actually draws you in? I mean, I know that you don't always have a choice of what roles you take, but
I love the challenge of playing characters who are reserved and withdrawn, because it's so sort of is such stark contrast to who I am in my own nature. So I like exploring that a lot, and I love the chance to be physical, because I was a dancer for so many years. So I just feel like I get to have fun and sort of use my training and my background. And I'm really drawn to comedy, but I'm a strong dramatic actress, so I often get dramatic roles. But like I say, with A Dog's Purpose or many of the stage plays I've done, I have done a ton of comedy that I love. So a comedic TV show would be a dream for me.
Mm-hmm. With lots of action.
Yeah, sure. Or even just physical comedy, right? AKA like, more like slappy stick, or just embodying a character in a physical way, the way Melissa McCarthy can do. That I would love. That would be a joy.
Mm-hmm. If you had an opportunity to play any great women from history, who would it be, and what is it that really capture your imagination about that person?
I would have loved to play Joan of Arc. I'm too old now, but I would have loved to play her, and I love Shaw's play, Saint Joan. What interests me about a role like that is her conviction and defiance and strength. What else? That's a great question. There's playing any kind of women in a position of power, particularly in a time when it wasn't accepted, interests me. It's funny. Joan of Arc is the first one who came to mind. I don't know if I'd get a shot at it now, but just her sort of defiance in the face of all the male voices around her, trying to oppress her, really, and her leadership.
Well,
yeah,
you could do voice if they did an animated movie.
Yes, I could. Yeah, I could. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in doing more voice work, actually. Yeah. So I'm exploring that right now too.
Yeah, that's something that I, if ever I went back into the acting, it's something I'd love to do is just voice work.
Oh yeah,
just crazy, wacky cartoon voice work.
Oh sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I have so much fun just talking to myself that way anyway. So. Sorry. Aside from Van Helsing, are there any other projects that you'd like to talk about and let people know about? I'm filming a Hallmark movie right now, part of the Fixer Upper mystery series with Jewel as our lead, and I have a really fun turn in this film. And also, if people can catch Kira Sedgwick's directing debut, the movie Story of a Girl, that was just released on Lifetime in the US, and I don't know what it would be released on in the UK, but she's a wonderful director, and it's a really important story, and I love that little film, and I'm in that one. So that one's just been released just now, and then I guess season 3 of Van Helsing I'll probably be back, so that's exciting too. Cool. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. It's been really great speaking to you. I've really enjoyed myself.
And you too. It's so nice when somebody does their homework before they interview you.
You're going to be impressed with the amount of time I spent doing my homework.
Oh, I am. I can tell already. I could tell in the interview.
It was very rushed. I basically I'd skimmed through your IMDb a few times and thought about it, then went back to it today, and I spent about 10-15 minutes writing questions.
Oh, fantastic! Well, you're good at it, so there you go.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for your time. When's Van Helsing start? It starts on the 5th of October, right?
That is the screening date. Thank you. It is 5th of October, so that's soon. It's coming up. It's exciting. Okay,
so we can look forward to seeing you in Van Helsing. I'd like to wish you all the best of luck with it and your future projects. And I'm going to watch A Dog's Story, A Dog's Purpose at some point. I think.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I've got to watch that film.
Let me know. Shoot me a little email when you've watched it.
It's science fiction that will blow your mind. This is SFP-NOW.
And that's our interview with Carolyn Cave. I'd like to thank Carolyn for taking time out of her busy schedule. Apparently she was actually flying somewhere while we had this conversation. So she was actually in transit at the time, which is rather exciting. Now it's time for the discussion segment. We've got a hell of a lot to discuss. Raissa's here, as you heard earlier, and we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery, maybe the Orville. I'm going to sort of like snag down the CBS version of MacGyver because it's always fun. It's like shooting at lame ducks. And Raissa's going to sort of like talk about Inhumans. So what should we go at first?
Let's do the space opera first. The 2 treks ish, whatever.
Well, the two trek-ish things, yeah. It's funny actually because about Star Trek Discovery, I was talking to Roger Noriega earlier. Remember Roger from from Blog Talk Radio? And he still does his shows on Blog Talk. He's still active on there, even though the Blog Talk's kind of gone to shit. he still does his shows on there. And stuff like that, and I think he's working a new job now as well because we've not spoke to him in probably months. And I asked him about Discovery, and he says he's gotten to the point where they're going to remake it and they're going to sort of like they're going to change things anyway, sort of thing, because it's a new generation that's taken over the hen house generally. So he's been watching, he's been quite liking what he's seen, but at the same time he's been sort of like noticing things like the holographic communications, the site-to-site transport in this episode, for example. In the original series, Kirk said that they couldn't do site-to-site transports because it was too dangerous for some reason. And we didn't really see site-to-site transports happen until sort of like Next Generation. Yeah,
plus there was an article I sent you earlier where they mentioned the fact that in original canon, it's the Romulans who designed the cloaking technology, not the Klingons.
That's already been explained though by the author of the episode. Apparently, that Klingon ship was over 200 years old. And it was the only ship in the Klingon fleet that had cloaking technology. It just happened to have it. They didn't. There's no sort of like canonical reason for it. It just happened to have the cloaking technology. So whether it was another ship that the Klingons got hold of and made their own, or what, we don't know. All we know is that ship was 200 years old, and that particular set of Klingons was over 200 years old as well.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. The other issue is in the episode we just saw. Lorca had a Tribble, and my first question was, how come the Tribble isn't pregnant and giving birth to other Tribbles? He just has a lone Tribble in there, like it's safe to have a lone Tribble in there for some reason. Yeah, because that was kind of established in the original series that they reproduce like rabbits, sort of thing. So I was sort of like querying that, and I heard it. I didn't actually spot it till the second episode, but I heard it in the first, and I was thinking, is that Tribble? Putting aside whatever the continuity glitch may be, it makes sense because if Lorca's as unhinged as we think he may be using the Tribble as Prozac.
Yeah, he might be eating the tribbles as they're produced. It might be some sort of like medical application for them that we don't know about, because Discovery is a science ship.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if we're going to get a scene where Lorca has hairballs and sorry, again, I've got an overactive imagination there, but it's sort of like, it makes sense. If he's eating tribbles, he's going to get hairballs.
Yeah.
But I like Lorca. He's kind of Captain Nemo-ish.
Yeah, he might be the current series answer to Garth of Izar, basically. He's slightly military genius, but crackers.
Which would explain why CBS and their affiliates put a stop to Asana.
It might, because if they're using Lorca as their Garth of Izar, then they wouldn't want actual canonical Garth of Izar variations floating around out there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But he does. He struck me as a bit Captain Nemo-ish. His first scene when he's introduced, it kind of like it kind of put me in mind of James Mason's Captain Nemo. You know, the kind of the darkness and the way he dresses Burnham in that scene. You know, I swear to God, she you know, he acted her off the screen. You know,
which is scary because Martin Green is not a slouch, but yeah.
It is scary, but you know, it's funny because I was listening to I think is it Mark Scott Zicree?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I was listening to his podcast last week about the first episode, and he's got a real downer on Burnham. He doesn't think the actress is particularly good at all.
She's solid, but she's probably not as good as she needs to be. A lot will depend on how things develop going forward. Some of it might be just her trying to feel her way early in the role too. So we don't know.
Yeah, well, one thing he said, which struck a chord, was that she didn't really have any warmth. You know, there's no warmth.
This is a character who was raised on Vulcan after her parents were killed. So
yeah, but even so, she's human.
That's true.
And he pointed out that Spock had a bit more warmth to him than she does.
And Sark does too, for that matter.
So, whether it's PTSD from seeing a parent so brutally killed in front of her or whatnot, that would probably explain it, sort of thing. But it's sort of like I don't know.
Need to explain it.
You don't need to explain it, but I'm sort of like I just sort of like watched yesterday and today, thinking, you know, more along the lines of the other characters, the new characters that are introduced. I'm not a fan of Commander Landry.
Yeah, if this show follows suit, there'll be layers peeled off of all of these characters. So I'm not too worried about her initial introduction. I'm worried about what we get subsequently.
Yeah, I mean, I think Saru was good in last night's episode.
Yes, I love him. Doug Jones forever. He's awesome. His
scenes with Burnham were really good yesterday. And what's the name now? The science officer, Stamets, is it? Or Stamets?
Stamets, yeah. Stamets. Bless his heart.
Or Stem Cell, or whatever.
Stamets, yeah.
Yeah. He kind of put me in mind of the agitated, irreversible scientist. You know, sort of like I was almost thinking Hans Zarkov sort of thing. If he had a beard.
Yes, that would work. That would work. Yeah. Generally speaking, I think this third episode is the strongest that we've gotten so far, of relative to what they're trying to give us. Like Roger, I'm basically more or less resigned to the fact that this is not our Trek, but for modern Trek, I think it's more effective than the modern movies.
Oh, indeed it is. I mean, it's better acted for a start.
Yeah.
But that's nothing. That's no reflection on the actors in the modern Trek movies. It's the fact that the characters have a bit more depth. They're better written.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with it, and you know, maybe if they decide that this is not in the Prime universe, but they decide it's another universe, we might see a remake of TOS on the television, which could be pretty cool.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. I'm kind of the opinion that this maybe is a universe that's going to get timey-wimeyed out of existence, because there are so many issues with canon cumulatively that I'm wondering if a lot of that's just going to get rewritten because that's the plot. Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how much of it is just them deciding to make changes and how much of this is actually just plot. So
I mean, if you link this show up with with Enterprise, it makes sense in a way, because in Enterprise you had the Time War, you had the future guy from the 29th century coming back to assist Archer against the Sumaban. You had the Starfleet officer coming back from the 29th century. You had future guy. So, you know, you could argue that something probably happened during Archer's adventure on Enterprise that sort of like moved things on to a point where the technology's at where it is now, sort of thing. Yeah. So you could argue that Enterprise kind of rebooted Star Trek in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, you can explain away anything. But my issue isn't that you can explain away everything. My issue is that we have to bother. My issue is that we're in this situation where we have to actually do that. It's annoying. It's just really annoying to have to put Band-Aids all over everything until shown reasons not to. It's really, it's just. It's not what I prefer to do with my time.
It's not, but to be honest, I think thus far on its own merits, it's actually a pretty good show, and it's worthy of our attention.
It is.
Because if the pilot had been absolutely crap, we wouldn't be talking about it now. We would have been slating the hang out of it last week, and we would have been moving on. But it's done enough to impress us for 3 weeks in a row, so it's worth talking about and discussing. And I don't know. I kind of like the effort of explaining in a way. I find it kind of like a fun cerebral exercise.
Yeah.
In a sense. Yeah. But maybe that's the creative writer in me.
I think it's the creative writer in me, because I'm thinking about it in terms of, because I've written fanfic, and fanfic is not the same as professional writing, but I've written enough fanfic over the years to know that process counts, and the process is evident in what we're seeing, even if it's not quite the process we would like. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a solid show that might actually, be a very good show going forward.
Right. Well, I'm liking Lorca so far. I can't wait to see some of the layers peel back on the science guy.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a gay character, isn't he?
Yes.
So obviously it was his boyfriend that died on the other ship.
Yes.
So I wonder if he's going to sort of go to Saru for some pity.
Yeah, my biggest issue in terms of the big story arcs is, like you mentioned in your review, is Burnham going to get to the point where she's going to have to do a second mutiny?
Yeah, that's that's kind of like, I was thinking that all the way through, because Lorca's so far gone, and it's obvious he's so far gone, and it's obvious that she knows he's so far gone.
Yeah. Because that project is not what he says it is. Even if it's not what she thinks it is, it's also not what he says it is.
It isn't. And there's also the rather telling line from Saru. I'm going to do a better job of protecting my captain than you did of yours, sort of thing. Which I thought, ouch.
And he's going to pay for that. He's absolutely going to pay for that, which is going to suck. But I mean, Jones will play the hell out of his death scene, but it's going to suck.
Yeah, well, it's like it's almost funny, because when he's seeing the ship go, the heckles in his neck went up. It was as if he knew that she was still on board the ship.
Yeah.
And he's definitely frightened of her.
Yeah.
It's you're right. I don't know whether Saru will die, but I think someone. I don't think we're going to see this crew around for very long.
No.
Certainly if it goes to season 2, I'm kind of hoping Cadet Tilly dies, because quite frankly she just annoyed the crap out of me. If I had her as a roommate, I would have shot her within the first 2 seconds. I think Burnham was surprisingly patient. But yeah, I don't think this crew is going to be around in its current shape and form for very long. And also, if Burnham mutinies again, what does that mean for her future in Starfleet? Because she's not really a commissioned officer anymore.
No, and one of the issues that people brought up in the interviews was that they know that Spock never mentioned having a foster sister, and they're going to address why she's not canonically there. So there's obviously stuff that's going to happen, which leads me to believe maybe she dies at the end of this arc.
I was actually thinking that right from the offset before the first 2 episodes even aired. I thought, well, if Spock's never mentioned her and Sarek never mentioned her, maybe something really, really terrible happened to her, and she died. And that's what I was thinking. And maybe her death ties in with the Klingon War. She started it, sort of thing. and sort of like and that's that. But I don't know. I'd give this episode a solid 4 out of 5 for this week. I think.
Yeah. In itself, it's worth that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Moving on, the Orville. I can't remember. Oh, it was the one with the where they went to the spaceship, and it was the
one where they recycled the Doctor Who finale.
Yeah. I thought it was okay. I wasn't really. It was sort of like it just put me in mind of that first season Star Trek episode where you had all the half naked women and blokes running around in white togas. Sort of thing. Do you remember?
Yeah, and my biggest problem is I probably would have had a less harsh reaction to it if they hadn't been riffing off of a plot line that we saw in Doctor Who's 2-part finale, and saw Doctor Who do better.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
yeah, I just saw like although I've got to admit I thought Kynan's bit at the beginning where he's watching old fucking musicals to sort of cheer himself up was funny.
That was cool.
I thought that was pretty fun. And thought, what's Kynan got to worry about? He got his own way in the end with the kid.
Yes.
In the last episode, he shouldn't be sulking, but maybe he's sulking because sort of like he's not getting his own wicked way with his mate.
Busy
because his mate's too busy on the bridge, sort of thing. The character that's impressing me the most, though, in this series is a short one. I can't remember her name, but the one with super strength.
Oh yes, Laura Catan. Yeah,
Laura. She seems to be the character that's probably impressing me the most.
Yeah.
In terms of what she's had to do so far. But the two guys piloting the ship are just sort of like they're just sort of there. They're just sort of there. They're just Family Guy characters. It's almost as if they're just there to provide some very, very cheap laughs, if you will.
Yeah. And you can tell they're struggling because they're already bringing in the extra special star cameos. I mean, not that it wasn't cool to see Liam Neeson, it was, but holy crap, this early in the game.
Well, actually, they had 3 really big stars. Obviously, Liam Neeson, the huge Hollywood star, because he's not really known for television.
Then they had Nepper, and then they had I blanked on the third guy's name, but I recognized the face.
James Morrison from 24.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, that's right. Okay, because the name wasn't coming to me. I'm like, I know you, and the name wasn't coming.
Yeah, he's James Morrison. He's sort of like. His career only really took off, and he only really got known over here in the UK when he did Space Above and Beyond. He played the commanding officer in that, and then he got the role in 24 for a couple of seasons, which was a likeable character, and now kind of the Orville, but he happened to have a very, very short role in North and South Book 2. Do you remember the miniseries with Patrick Swayze?
I saw the original. I skipped Book 2.
And Book 2 was actually as good as the original. Because Book 2 was about them going up against each other in the Civil War and how the friendship, it was, obviously it was kind of soapy with Leslie Ann Down, which is kind of why I watched it, because I had a huge crush on Leslie Ann Down at the time. He had a very brief role in that, and it was literally a walk-on role, 2-3 lines of dialogue and off. And I thought, oh my God, that's James Morrison, because I watched it a couple of years ago. I thought, oh my God, that's James Morrison from Space Above and Beyond and 24. Oh no,
yes.
Oh my God, sort of thing. But it's strange that he's not really, he's kind of like he's kind of been a bit of a late bloomer, hasn't he? Really.
Some of them are.
But the stuff he's done, he's generally been really good. And I kind of liked his character in this, so
Yes. I mean, the actors did as well as they could with the material they had. It was just shy of being mediocre, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of probably why I gave it a 7. Out of 10. mean, I didn't know what to do with it really, because the first episode I gave I really lowballed the first episode. But
the first episode was crap, so you were right to lowball it, but yeah.
And About a Girl was slightly better, so I gave that an 8. But it'd be interesting to see what the next one's going to be, because the first 3 episodes were the only ones that the actual critics got hold of, and they lowballed every single one of them. But you know what critics are like.
The next one, they've got stunt casting. They've actually got Charlize Theron playing a femme fatale.
Oh, that's typecasting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, because that, you know, aside from playing mass murderers, she seems to play femme fatales quite a lot.
Mm. So, she's good at it. So, yeah. But that's how desperate they are. And I'll watch it just because of Charlize Theron. But man, it's getting hard.
Yeah, I'll watch it because of Charlize Theron, but I'm not going to repeat what you said there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Orville out of 5, I'm going to go 2.5.
Yeah, that's about right.
You know, maybe a 2 if I really want to lowball it, but you know. So moving on to
you want to get the negative out of your system and just do MacGyver next?
Man, MacGyver. It's like CBS have not been listening to my rants. They've gone and added another character. She's Australian. She's former Special Forces Australian, sort of like military or something. CIA agent, and she's sort of like come into the fold, and she's basically a master interrogator sort of thing. God. And you know, it's sort of like the Phoenix Foundation is the front for a think tank in the series. So they're kind of like saying, oh, it's a clandestine organisation, but you know, but to the public we're a think tank. But to the bad guys we're sort of like NSA or whatever. It's just sort of like I can't watch it. I can't review this anymore. It's just shit. I just can't really, you know. It's nothing to do with Lucas Till. I think if he was given the right material, and if it was written more like the MacGyver of old, in that they sent him out on his own sort of thing.
He could do it. He could do it. I saw enough of his performance to believe that if they gave him the right scripts, he could pull it off.
He could do it. It's just that he's sort of like hamstrung with the team around him, specifically George Eads, who's sort of like just playing a guffawing, idiotic, sort of like freaking special forces, special needs, Bruce Willis fucking wannabe. You know, it's just sort of like that bugs me. If I was to do it, if I had my druthers, I'd keep Riley around because she's actually quite good and useful. I'd make sure Bowser got hit by an 18-wheeler truck and completely squashed out of existence. And I think I would disintegrate the version of Jack Dalton and create a new character who was more like the original Jack Dalton.
Yes, because Bruce McGill was absolutely darling in that role.
Bruce McGill was brilliant in whatever he does. I'm a huge fan of his. I thought he was great in Cinderella Man. You know, and he didn't really have a huge part in that. But he was great in that. And he's good in whatever he does, really, Bruce McGill. But as Jack Dalton, for me, he's always going to be Jack Dalton. I mean, we've not had Penny Parker introduced yet, thank God.
Thank you, God. Thank you. Because, yes, Penny Parker was a dit, but she was played in a very particular way by Terry Hatcher, and I don't know if the current crop of pretty girls could pull that off properly.
I don't think they'd actually write a character like Penny Parker now, because it'd be seen by the feminist movement as a backward step, and to be quite frank, rather sexist. When it isn't, because you still get women out there that are complete ditsies.
Yeah, they exist.
They do exist. Just as himbos like Bowser exist.
Yes,
sort of
they happen. Both genders. You know,
it's like a double standard now on television. Plenty of himbos, not very many female ditsies at all, if any. mostly sort of like most females on television now have to be competent and in charge.
Yeah, I loved Penny because I love the retro entertainment, and there was a very latter day Perils of Pauline feel to her, which I appreciated, being a fan of some of the more pulpy early entertainment. So
I just love Penny because she brought out she brought out something in MacGyver that no other character could really. Kind of like almost like a big brother sort of thing. Yeah. Because he did kind of over time become like a big brother to her.
Yes.
Just in the same way as Pete Thornton became like a surrogate father. But in the series have introduced this art now where he's looking for his dad. And I think, oh my God. So like next week it's going to be revealed that his dad is Donald Trump. And it's going to be a scene where MacGyver's on a platform and Trump's on the other side of the platform beckoning to MacGyver saying, Mark, I'm your father. And he's going to go, no! And that's the extent of the writing on this show, to be honest. If they kind of cut it down to just Ryan, Matty and MacGyver, they could potentially have a really good show on their hands.
Yes.
But at the moment, it's just like a clone of NCIS Los Angeles, NCIS New Orleans, and pretty much every other bloody team-based show they've got on there, including Raissa and Ian. The only show that actually stands out as a team show and stands out in its own right on the CBS at the moment is Scorpion. But that's only because all the characters have some form of Asperger's. So that's what makes it quite entertaining to me, for obvious reasons. So that's my MacGyver rant over and done with. I'm probably going to carry on watching it in secret just so I can have something to bitch and moan about, but I'm not going to review it anymore.
The sad thing is, I'm not picking up The Gifted, which starts tonight, simply because I don't have time. I need some blank spots in my schedule for time-shifted shows. So I guess I'm not picking up The Gifted. Plus, I'm not interested in yet one more premise where mutants are running from the government, even if it happens to be well written with Amy Acker in it. I just can't take anymore. Yeah. I'm getting too many variations of that on other shows.
I think we're just getting too many variations of the government being in charge. It's like if you look at the original V, the government weren't in charge when the aliens came and invaded weren't they? The government collaborated with them.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And and I just think that, we've had all these shows since the late 80s, early 90s where government agencies have been sort of like the good guys and everyone else has been sort of like the bad guys. And it's kind of like a narrative that's getting really, really old.
Yeah.
There's no more. There doesn't seem to be any more sort of like ordinary bloke or ordinary woman. Goes out and sort of like helps and becomes sort of like a hero.
Yeah.
And you don't see a show about social workers, getting shot at and stuff like that. And it probably does happen because people don't like social workers. So.
Yeah, I just to complete my thought, what I was going to say was most of the shows we're watching now are so mediocre, and frankly, if we weren't doing this podcast, I would quit on almost all of them. But we'd have nothing to discuss. It's just really, really sad.
Well, Star Trek Discovery isn't exactly mediocre. I just think
it's quite good, but we can't keep discussing like one show.
Yeah, but so the gift, things like The Gifted. I think the TV makers need to get out of the head that the government are no longer the good guys. The government are as fallible as anyone else.
Yes.
Yeah. Sort of thing, and it'd be just good to see sort of like see stories that centre around individuals again.
Yeah.
and you know, characters coming in and out of that individual's life, sort of thing, and maybe
or you could have a sort of hybrid, which there was this really awesome pilot that was leaked online in the early days of online. I watched it on YouTube. It was it had Michelle Forbes as Miranda Zero, and it was a government agency that recruited everyday people to be temporary agents, and it was based on a comic book. It was I'm blanking on the name of it now, but it was really, really brilliant. And we need something more along those lines.
Yeah, we need something different. We need a different setup for a show.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like in the 70s, we had things like Police Story, we had Starsky and Hutch, where it was Bay City and sort of thing, and they're remaking that now.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, it's not a remake. It's actually a continuation, from what I've heard. The guy that did Guardians of the Galaxy is doing it, and he's doing a continuation from the original series. So it's going to be like the next generation of Starsky and Hutch, I guess. And I think that'd be quite interesting. You know, because with it being a continuation, it's not a reboot. So, you know.
Okay, I found it's Global Frequency. That's the title I was looking for. We need that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need sort of more out of the box shows. I mean, it's almost as if originality is just completely and utterly being demolished from television. Or if
we have a remake, we need or a reboot. We needed a reboot of Max Headroom, which I recently discovered thanks to CW Seed. Bless them.
Is there room for that? So that's a bad joke. Is there room for that Headroom?
Yes, yeah. Only if Matt Frewer reprised the role, but it was ahead of its time. It was literally 30 years ahead of its time.
I'm kind of gutted that they took Warehouse 13 and Eureka off the air.
Yeah, looking back, I'm missing Warehouse 13 rather badly.
They could have got at least another couple of seasons out of those shows, I think. But you know, so like it's interesting. So now on to Inhumans.
Yeah, Inhumans. Again, steadfastly mediocre. Basically, I found myself watching it for the dog, for the 1-ton teleporting bulldog who rocks. Who absolutely rocks.
I seen that in the trailer and I thought, cool.
Yes.
The giant teleporting dog. But then I looked for it online. I looked for a pirate copy of it and I couldn't find one in HD, so I thought, I'm not going to bother. So I didn't even bother downloading it. It's like, it would have been too much effort to find the HD version of it, and I just thought, I can't be bothered. You know, if it comes out on DVD or if Amazon Prime grabs it or Netflix grabs it, I'll just watch it that way or whatever. I'm not really bothered.
Yeah, it was the actors were trying. The actors were trying valiantly, but there wasn't enough there. And Anson Mount gave the most nuanced performance of them all as Black Bolt in a non-verbal role, and he did a really good job of it. And Yoan Ryon was not playing Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones, but he was playing a conflicted bad guy in playing Black Bolt's brother Maximus. And I was reading synopses of these because I don't read the comics very often because I have financial and visual difficulties. And but I'm reading these synopses of the comics. I'm like, the comics are way more interesting than what we got here, and I wish that they had either given us the comics or integrated Inhumans into our established Inhuman storyline so that they were a subplot in what we already had.
Yeah, it's kind of the second Marvel short form show that's not particularly gone down too well. But then again, I think Legion's got a second season, so. Legion wasn't for me. I'm glad if it finds an audience, but it wasn't for me. Yeah, I watched that first episode and, I thought, not for me. It was a bit too sort of like clinical in the hospital and stuff like that, and it was a bit too trippy, and I thought, I can't be dealing with this.
No.
I'd rather watch a good decapitation on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's about where I am. Yeah. There's less pretension to Game of Thrones. They just get on with it. But Inhumans, Inhumans was sad because I wanted to like it and I wanted to watch, and I'm going to continue with it because it's only 8 episodes and it's a limited series, so I can put up with that. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't continue with it if it weren't ongoing. It's only because it's a limited series I'm going to bother.
Yeah,
and because the dog is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, if we look on the bright side, get Stranger Things series 2's out soon, isn't it?
Yeah, that comes out not this week, but I think like the beginning of, comes out like the 13th, October 13th, something like that.
Yeah, I think everyone's probably going to try and binge watch that over the course of a weekend when it comes out.
That's what I plan to do, or at least get as much of it down as I can.
It's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of stupid them releasing it so late because it's actually got to compete with all the other TV shows now, whereas if they'd released it during the summer, it didn't really have too much to compete with this year because, you know, there wasn't really anything particularly great shakes on during the summer. Other than sort of maybe The Defenders sort of thing. That was kind of late summer.
Which I skipped, yeah.
But it's sort of like, I don't know, I mean, I'm going to watch it, but I'm probably going to struggle to fit it in because by the time it comes back, we're going to have Arrow, we're going to have The Flash, all those shows are going to be back on the air.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So it's going to be kind of tight.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm going to watch, if I want to watch Ash versus the Evil Dead when it comes out or time shift that one till later. I have to look at my schedule and figure it out. Mm-hmm. Given the dearth of shows, except for the DC stuff, I may have to watch it when it airs just so that we have something to discuss during podcasts. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is, with the DC shows, Martz and Jeff are going to be covering those on DC Action Hour anyway, which is kind of like taking that niche away from us in a way. But, you know, more power to them because they have different people on each week that can give a different take on it, sort of thing.
Yeah, which I like. So we'll be all right. It's just that it's just like the non-DC shows have been so lackluster that I don't know if there's enough material to. We'll figure it out.
One show I started watching, I time shifted on it. I didn't watch it while it was airing last year. But I time shifted it and binge watched it once it was all on Netflix, and that was Designated Survivor. And I really enjoyed it.
I'm just, after 24, I'm just not in the mood. The tropes were so thin. My biggest systemic problem with all of this is I have a really, really low threshold just for a lot of these tropes.
Well, I've got a low threshold for Once Upon a Time return, and I'm not even going to bother watching it.
I may watch 1 or 2 episodes just for guest performances, but I'm mostly giving up on that show too. So.
Yeah, what we're going to do, because television's getting so rubbish, we may as well just sort of like, I don't know, maybe we should just get into video games. There's probably better writing in them anyway.
Yeah, I probably would, except with my cerebral palsy, my motor skills are really subpar. Otherwise, I probably would have gotten into more gaming than I have. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so like it's weird. It's a weird landscape on television right now because so like a lot of the science fiction and fantasy dramas just seem to be quite subpar. It's almost like we've had too much of a good thing over a period of years, and it's sort of like just the wheels have started to come off.
Yeah, and even when the show might be good, something like Gifted, I just don't care. I don't want to watch that premise anymore. I'm done with it. I'm systemically bored.
Yep.
And they're not, and very few of the shows are giving me what I need not to be systemically bored. A few of them are. And I'm rediscovering some of the classic shows, things like Max Headroom, or giving me some hope, just at the retro level. But for the most part, it's becoming tedious. And it's sad because I loved TV growing up. I used to watch way more television than was, frankly, healthy for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding more enjoyment in not TV.
Audio,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same, but with video games or music.
And not just Big Finish stuff that we're reviewing, but audio in general. I listen to a lot of audio in general. Mm-hmm. And and it's a lot more fulfilling to me.
Yeah, well, it's it's quite frightening how good Big Finish are in terms of the storytelling on their Doctor Who's. Even their modern Doctor Who stories
are better than the canon show. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite it's quite frightening. I mean, I'm a bit worried about where Doctor Who's going now.
And a female Doctor is actually the least of it. I mean, Jodie Whittaker is not the one I'm worried about. I'm worried about Chris Chibnall.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm worried about the fact that we got a female Doctor, fine, but I think particularly enjoyed the way they set that up, because they set it up over a course of 5 seasons, and it's quite telling that all the regenerations we've seen from male to female, and yet we didn't see any regenerations from male to from female to male, sort of thing. It's almost like they've got some feminist social justice warriors in the writing room on Doctor Who, and and writing towards that niche. But then again, there's been elements of it in the show, and then there's been elements where it's sort of like not being there, sort of thing.
No, if they gender flip Romana to a man, they need to call her Fred at that point, because she doesn't work as a Roman.
Yeah, and also that was a nickname anyway in the series, wasn't it?
Yes.
Fred.
Yeah, because their initial conversation is either I call you Romana or I call you Fred, and she says, "Okay, I prefer Fred."
Yeah, I think they should do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So if they gender flip her, they need to call her Fred, not Roman, because Roman doesn't work.
But maybe they should gender flip the Doctor's real daughter, Susan.
Granddaughter, yeah, that might be interesting. That could work.
Because that's sort of like that's more of a familial relationship, and at the end of the day, that'd probably be more controversial than gender flipping Romana.
Mm-hmm.
Because who knew that she could regenerate? As far as we knew, she was just an ordinary Gallifreyan. She wasn't a Time Lord.
Yeah.
So maybe somewhere along the lines, after her travels with her grandfather, she goes into the looms and becomes a Time Lord. But I think that's something they need to explore on the screen as well. How does a Gallifreyan, an ordinary person, become a Time Lord? What's the process for that?
Yeah,
so it's been written about in the books and the comics and stuff like that, but it's never actually been talked about on the TV series.
No, it hasn't.
And I think, given that they said, well, they can gender flip, sort of thing. Well, what else can they do? What can they and what can they not do? Sort of thing. Yeah. What are the rules? What are the limitations to it? But I think the show's written in such a way that there are no rules and there are no limitations, and that's just the way it's going to roll. Yeah.
I just, like I said, Whittaker's not the problem. It's the stories going on around her that are going to determine whether this is viable or not. Mm-hmm. So. And
he'll either succeed and be as successful as Tennant's run.
Yeah.
In terms of the modern sort of like series, or it will fail miserably. And I think the only reason they've actually gender flipped recently is because the ratings have been in the toilet, and they've been grudging getting that way since Matt Smith took over.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting because they had a variation of the same problem they had after Tom Baker. After Tom Baker, no one quite adjusted to the subsequent Doctors, and Tennant was the Tom Baker of modern Doctor Who. In that he was the one that people looked at and went, yay! And then subsequent Doctors were fun and interesting and had their fan bases, but weren't quite the same thing.
Yeah, you're right there. I mean, it's really, really funny as well that it was actually the second of the new batch of Doctors that actually got that fan reaction sort of thing. So it kind of says a lot about Tennant's charisma as an actor and personality. That he was able to achieve that.
Yes, although for my own purposes, 12 is my modern Doctor, and I absolutely adore Capaldi in the role. And I'm just sorry that Moffat wasn't able to give him more consistently strong writing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so. I'm the same with you on that. I'm going to miss Capaldi.
I am, and because here's the thing, Capaldi is a fan, and he's also just a really sweet guy who took his job seriously, and when you read about his and see his interactions with fans, and stuff, he really loves the fans, and it comes through.
Yep.
And all of the actors who play Doctor Who have been really good ambassadors, but Capaldi has been exceptionally good as an ambassador for the brand. In the modern era, he absolutely loves them, and they love him.
Well, I'll tell you who's not really been necessarily a good ambassador for Doctor Who. Eccleston.
Well, Eccleston, from what I read, tends to throw drama fits in general. So.
Yeah, he tends to. He never sticks around in any one role for too long. Anyway, he did the same on Cracker as he did on Doctor Who. He left after the first season. But I don't think it's. I think Eccleston, he just had a problem with the way things were being run and stuff like that. And but he's not really been a good ambassador to the series at all. He's,
no. What I love though is even though Eccleston was a flailing drama queen, the fact that he was a flailing drama queen gave us the War Doctor, because everybody with a brain knows that the War Doctor role was supposed to be 9.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because Eccleston flailed that Moffat had to write the War Doctor to tell that part of the story, and we got the War Doctor out of it. So John Hurt got an awesome role, and we got awesome time with John Hurt in an awesome role. So thank you, Christopher Eccleston, for being a drama queen, at least to that extent.
And the Time War continues this month with the big finish release of the 8th Doctor Adventures during the Time War.
Yes, which I will definitely be listening to, and Dominic will be reviewing, I think you said.
Yep, so. Dominic will be reviewing. I'm a bit concerned though whether I should actually introduce him to the John Hurt ones, or just let him take it from his own perspective.
I think leave him for right now and let him take it from his own perspective, and start with 8, and then if he wants to do the John Hurt stuff, he can. Mm-hmm. So because a lot of it's time. He's got to he's got to carve out the time to listen to these things. That's hard, especially with the box sets.
Aye, that's exactly it. I mean, you found that with the Captain Scarlet one this week, and you wasn't even reviewing it, and I just seen how much it was in terms of time and stuff like that. I thought, I'll just be happy with my memories of the series and leave it at that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that wraps up for this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be back again in a few weeks' time. We've got a big one next week with Trip Hope. But that's like an interview it's a rolling interview that goes on for about an hour or so. It's like a conversation. So we're just going to run that as a one-off.
Okay.
And also, I've been talking to Sean, and we're planning a Halloween special again.
Awesome.
So we're doing that, and you know how naughty and drunk we all get when we do the Halloween specials.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So like it's so like you probably hear us slowly deteriorating as the hour goes on. But that's coming up in later this month. So that's all for this week, and we'll be back at you next week. And later on in the month, the DC Action Hour will be returning. So lots to look forward to.